Hi all! When people first hear or think of Colorado, they usually think of high mountains, cold weather, skiing, or snowboarding. However, what people don't know is that Colorado is a state that used to be very successful in all aspects of mining. Let's take a closer look. Back in the day, gold mining served as the main source of income for Colorado and played a significant role in the state's economic success. Currently, Colorado is home to approximately 23,000 mines, many of which have been abandoned for decades. Although this seems harmless and meaningless, these mines house many concentrated toxins and wastes that build up over long periods of time. The Environmental Protection Agency, or also known as the EPA, is a federal organization that was established to help protect the environment and human health. They do this by writing and administering regulations regarding laws passed by Congress. When states like Colorado are concerned about the status of their abandoned mines, local governments call the EPA to conduct investigations and inspections. However, for various reasons that we'll explain later, this dangerous work can prove to be potentially catastrophic, demonstrated last year with the investigations of the Gold King mine in Silverton, Colorado.
Over the summer of last year, the EPA was called upon by the local government in Colorado to conduct investigations on the Gold King mine. This mine is located about 5 miles north of the town of Silverton. On August 5th, 2015, EPA employees began the inspections with the small goals of assessing water drainage, attempting to treat the water, and evaluating the possibility of remediating the mine. Overall, the EPA was called upon to help prevent a mine blowout, which would result in waste spillage. Ironically, the organization caused the same event that they were attempting to avert.
Get a little video of this, I suppose.
Without enough information about the contents inside the mine, workers began to excavate above the old adit, which was a horizontal passage leading into the mine for the purpose of draining and access.
Send your bucket over. I want to ride the backside. Serious. Send your bucket over. Get me over there.
With a history of underfunding and cheap remediation, heavy equipment used, coupled with the negligent attitudes of the workers, disrupted the unsecure materials around the mine's bulkhead, causing a blowout that resulted in the spillage of 3 million gallons of contaminated wastewater. This video, captured by one of the workers, shows the progression of the spill and the increased release of the mine's wastewater. As evident in the footage released by the EPA, the blowout begins with the waste slowly trickling out of the mine, and mere moments later shows hundreds of thousands of gallons of uncontrollable waste spewing into local riverways and bodies of water.
Although the EPA claimed the incident to be inevitable, U.S. News declares otherwise. Newhouser, an author for the online news website, states, and I quote, "The review by the Interior Department found it was both preventable and also emblematic of the agency's inconsistent and deeply flawed approaches to reopening shuttered mines. Most critically, the EPA contractors working at the site chose not to bore a hole to physically check the amount of water inside the mine before digging." End quote. It is quite possible that such a catastrophic event could have been avoided if the necessary precautionary steps were taken.
One may think that the major issue of the drainage spilling into the water was the effect on the food pyramid. However, the short-term effects of the wastewater were not very detrimental. According to the EPA, their biologists paddled across the river in search for dead fish, but there were no signs of any. So, to test if there were any non-visible effects, the biologists placed fingerling rainbow trout in the river by the town of Durango before the spill had reached it. A total of 108 fish were placed at 3 different locations along the river to test the toxic levels and its effects on the fish. After the wastewater reached the testing site, only 1 fish had passed away, but not due to water quality. The other fish seemed healthy and were removed from the water to be brought to a laboratory to be tested for toxic levels inside of them. Even though these fish seemed fine in the short run, there could be long-term effects because of the consumption and buildup of metallic waste inside their digestive systems. The Animas River was cleaned quickly and was again open for recreation by August 14th, 2015. However, there could still be traces of iron in the water that could be deadly to the animals in the environment surrounding the river. Iron is not usually toxic to aquatic animals, but if there is an excess inside of their bodies, they will be unable to process it and eventually die. It is unsure when the river will be completely contaminant-free because of the accumulation of the constant drainage into the river. The amount of drainage the spill contained was approximately 190 tons of solid metal, including lead, arsenic, mercury, and cadmium. Therefore, because of more than 100 years of mining in the area and the environmental impacts, the river will never be completely safe for humans and other animals.
After the Gold King mine spilled into the Animas River and contaminated the water, turning the water a bright orange-yellow color, the EPA failed to notify the local residents of the spill for more than 24 hours. This slow response from the EPA could have severely hurt or affected the living organisms around the river. When the spill first occurred, the EPA failed to prevent the contamination of the river because of the rapid flow of water. So, the only solution was for the water to dilute the toxins naturally. A couple days after the spill, the EPA built settling ponds to divert additional acid mine drainage to flow away to neutralize the levels of acidity and to remove solids and metals from the water. Though the settling ponds did help return the river to a safer pH, the EPA, initially failing to acknowledge their mistake, could have put aquatic life, humans, and the overall ecosystem in danger.
Oh, hey there. Going about who's to blame, well, some criticize the EPA for failing to take adequate precautions despite warnings that a blowout could occur. But Interior Secretary Sally Jewell said a review by her agency showed that the spill was clearly unintentional. In their report, the EPA claims it was engaged in only careful scraping and excavation, with a backhoe outside the mine. Just prior to finishing, a team noticed a water spout a couple of feet high in the air, near where they had been excavating. The report goes on to say that the spout quickly turned into a gusher of yellow toxic water. It seems that the EPA would have us believe the mine erupted on its own. However, the EPA's report goes on to allege that the mine entrance was larger than they anticipated. And the fact that the adit opening was about 2 times the assumed 8 to 10 foot maximum height resulted in a closer than anticipated proximity to the adit brow. And combined with the pressure of the water was enough to cause the spout and blow up. So the EPA originally took responsibility for the spill, but then decided to blame the actual mine. They say they did not make the mine leak the toxic substances and made unnecessary documents, videos, and illustrations to prove their innocence. But pretty much, they're basically saying that sure, they were in the mine and digging, but they weren't the cause of such disaster.
If something like this were to happen on a larger scale, for example, a toxic spill of minerals in the ocean, it would be detrimental to the ecosystem, environment, and society. Spills like the one in Colorado make it hard for fish and other aquatic animals to survive because of the increase of toxic substances in their bodies. Therefore, the overall food chain would suffer and eventually fall apart. As time goes on, organisms would die or endanger other organisms that consumed it. So, if such a spill happened in an ocean where we get a majority of our seafood, not only would the economy suffer from lack of supply, but those who ate whatever seafood would be consuming a large amount of minerals like iron that would make digestion inevitably much harder. Water is also such an important part of our ecosystem and environment, and releasing gallons of toxins and waste into it would dramatically change its pH, making it extremely acidic and essentially useless due to the fact that drinking such water would be dangerous for humans, and living in such water would be impossible for aquatic animals to survive in.
Well said, Jamie. In order to prevent these catastrophic events from happening again, we the people need to urge Congress to pass stricter federal laws that further regulate the investigations of these abandoned mines. The lack of regulations across the country have built up to a point where disasters like this can happen too frequently. The EPA needs to ensure that their sanctions are being handled with the utmost professionalism and care. When these precautions are in place, not only will the work of these agents be much safer, but also the safety of the environment and human health will be in better hands. Thank you.
Let's come together as a community and prevent an event like this from happening again. Thanks for watching.